All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is April 23rd, 2026. My name, Coach Carignan, lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for being here. Let's take a look at the markets today, see what happened. Captured 2,800 today with a 51K account, only using 10%. Okay, so 5,100 there. All right, let's take a peek at what happened today in the markets. We got into the close. Got I'm just going to call it bearish consolidation because we came down, or it's still up on this upper latitude up here. You can call it bullish consolidation from the bigger picture. It's neither an uptrend or a downtrend. It's just consolidation, and it's underneath the VWAP. Well, it's hard to say. It's kind of like right on the VWAP right there. So you can see price action is, they came down, put in an exhaustion candle, came back up, and went up here and kind of call it I guess you call it a bear flag for right now. It's underneath VWAP, 10 minute into the close. All right, let's take a peek at, let's move this out of the way and push this down. And let's look at the 2-hour chart. And where are we? 2-hour chart right here. 2-hour chart is, push this up here. And 2-hour chart looks like more consolidation. I can't tell if it's a bull trend or a downtrend or an uptrend. All right, so the yellow line is underneath the white line. There's very little daylight in there, so I'm just going to call it more bullish consolidation. All right, price action is right along the same latitude, right through here. So price action, I'll call it bullish consolidation. Not quite an uptrend, not quite a downtrend, but still consolidating up here. It hasn't. Did they finally fill the gap? We'll find out here. Let's see. We left off the close was 71.57. The lows here were 701, so they didn't fill gap yet. All right, so call it bullish consolidation. They didn't fill gap. So there's SPY on the 2-hour chart. On the daily chart, we put in higher high, lower low, closed over the bullish trap, over the rising 17. See it right here with the quad lines on it. On the daily chart, it starts back here in April, and we come up, put in a low, and then rip and make a new all-time high. So there's price action for SPY. All right, so on the daily chart, we're still bullish, still in an uptrend, right up here. All right, on the weekly chart, we're still bullish and in an uptrend, way up here. On the monthly chart, we're still bullish and in an uptrend. Just a second. All right, I'm back. Okay, so we got bullish and in an uptrend on the monthly chart as well. Let's take a look at QQQ. All right, QQQ on the 10-minute chart. Trying to squeeze out a little uptrend right here. Not much happening though. Okay, trying to squeeze it out. More like bullish consolidation. Well, bearish consolidation because it's underneath the VWAP there. On the 2-hour chart, again, more bullish consolidation, consolidating up here at the highs. On the daily chart, we've got another new all-time high for QQQ. All right, so closing over the bullish trap, over the rising 17, top of quadrant 4, new all-time high, obviously bullish and in an uptrend for QQQ. Let's take a look at weekly chart. Weekly chart still bullish and in an uptrend right here. Okay, they're made up at the top of quadrant 4. They haven't made any lower lows. They're making higher highs, so it's bullish and in an uptrend. Monthly chart, see all the green dots, still bullish and in an uptrend. So that's QQQ. All right, so let's take a look at IWM. All right, so here's IWM on the daily time frame. We've got a lower high, lower low. We closed inside a bullish trap over the rising 17. Again, top of quadrant 4, so that's bullish and in an uptrend for IWM. Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow, lower high, lower low, closing in a bullish trap, just like IWM, over the rising 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish, middle of quadrant 4 here. They got a high, they're making higher highs. That's bullish and in an uptrend for Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at FNGU. All right, FNGU, lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap, just like the others, over the rising 17. In the middle quadrant 3, not in the upper third, so it's neutral. And they got a high here, they're making higher highs, so they're in an uptrend. So neutral and in an uptrend for FNGU. Let's take a look at silver. Silver is, I have to zoom in to see it, lower high, lower low, closing underneath a bearish cross, closing underneath the flat 17, closing underneath all-time high anchored VWAP, closing in the bottom of quadrant 3 over here, so that's neutral. All right, and let's see, we got a low here. The low there is 66.58. The low here is not low enough. Okay, so silver still in an uptrend, but not moving up. Past 5 days, well, past 4 days have been moving down. You can see we come off this high, down day, inside day, down day. All right, so this is neutral, but still in a dysfunctional uptrend after coming close to the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's silver. You want to see the rally for this. It starts back here in 2022. All right, back here, 2022. All-time high right up there. Okay, just made earlier at the beginning of the year right there. There's the all-time high. So right now, we just neutral, still in that dysfunctional uptrend. All right, so there's silver. Let's take a look at gold. All right, so gold is, it's a lower high and a lower low, closing underneath the bearish trap, underneath the 17. We're in the bottom of quadrant 4, so that's still bullish. Bottom of quadrant 4, we're underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP. Did we make lower lows? Well, we got a low right here, and no, we did not. So we're still in an uptrend for GLD. All right, let's take a look at USO. Higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the flat 17, up here in the middle of quadrant 4. All right, so that's got a high. They're making higher highs. So that's bullish and in an uptrend. You can see up here over this 4-year high anchored VWAP. And this starts back here in 2022. All right, this anchored VWAP, that was a post-COVID high. From there, we went flat in this bull flag, and now we're breaking out. So you can see price action up here, top of quadrant, near the top of quadrant 4. That's going to be bullish. You got a high, you're making a higher high, and in an uptrend for USO. UNG, this should be interesting. UNG is a lower high, a lower low. We're closing underneath a bearish cross. Closing underneath the falling 17. Still in a downtrend. We haven't made any higher highs because there's a low and there's a lower low. This is the all-time low right here. We are under the 12-month high anchored VWAP. We're in the bottom of quadrant 1. So let's pan out here and see what's going on. So there's our 12-month high anchored VWAP. All right, we're down in quadrant 1, so that's the lower third, so that's going to be bearish. Underneath this all-time high anchored VWAP, you got lows, you're making lower lows, you're in a downtrend, so downtrend and bearish, and that is the all-time low right there for UNG. All right, so we're making an attack on the all-time lows. Be interesting to see if they print out some all-time lows on UNG. All right, let's take a look at technicals. T2101, well, kind of melted up, kind of melted down. Participation just melted off a little bit here, a little bit more, okay? So the market's getting thinner and thinner. It's getting more volatile, as you can see from a lot of spinning top doji candles. So this T2101, still a little bit bullish for me, a little bit leaning on that. It's not down here in the green, right? Green area right here. So this is still kind of holding strong. We haven't filled all these gaps, so that's good news there. The bad news is we gapped down, all right, and we never got back up, all right? So I'd like to see it where we have increased participation. And the market was heading off towards new highs today. So that's kind of a bearish sign. I mean, we were up there at 712.38. The high was 712.39, you know, and I'm going to take that as a bearish sign, not a bullish sign today, because we were up at the highs, and there should have been more participation, but there wasn't. Now, why wasn't there more participation? That was weird. That it shouldn't have been like that. Okay, when you're going up for new highs, there should be a whole lot of participation going on as you're shooting off to make a new high. And we were close to making new highs today. We came within a penny of making new highs, showing us bearish control. Now, when that happens, you know you're going to get a rollover. So puts were the vehicle to trade. So there's T2101 15-minute chart. That was a bearish clue for today. T2101, T2122. Well, we climbed back into the buy zone, had a big dip into the buyer's chop zone, make a return, and then we clawed and climbed our way back into the buy zone. So we made a low, turned around, made a lower high, made a lower low, still haven't made a higher high yet. So we're back in the buy zone. Still bullish. You can see for the most part, this big white line represents April. Most of this yellow line, which is continuous, is spent its life for the month of April up here above the midpoint, which would be the buyer's area. All right, and you can see up here, there's a lot of it is spent in the buy zone and the overbought zone, as opposed to the buyer's chop zone. So market is still bullish, and we did see some signs of that today because we were, you know, up there at the all-time highs, okay, but just couldn't get it done. Obviously, the bears, we didn't have enough buyers, and you can see with the thin market, this may be what it's like for the rest of the year until they put in a capitulation low. We'll see. T2122, no sign of buyers, not enough to push us over the line today. Nobody interested. All right, so T2123, you can see yesterday's price action flat. Okay, there's yesterday's high. We made a higher high. All right, not a new all-time high, but a higher high. All right, so that left us off in an uptrend. We have not made, there's a low here. We have not made any lower lows. So we're in an uptrend on T2123. Remember, that's the all-time high right there. You're up above the 200 SMA. That's bullish. That's where you want to be. Still got a bullish gap right here. Hasn't been filled. Even with the fallout that we had earlier today, it wasn't enough to even fill this gap, or this gap, or this gap, or this gap. Okay, so you can see price moved up, consolidated over to the right. This is bullish, all right? The idea that they're holding this high ground like this, that's like planking for 6.5 hours right up there. Okay, they did really well to hang on to it, hang on to price all the way up there. So there's T2123, 15-minute, and of course I can Put the quad lines on there. There's no doubt about it. They're bullish and in an uptrend. You can see there's the that was the all-time high. This is the new all-time high, top of quadrant 4. That's going to be bullish. And you saw earlier they put in higher highs, so that's an uptrend. 3-bar chart. 3-bar chart also bullish and in an uptrend. You can see here's the origin of the rally back in April, and we made a new all-time high, came back, made a higher low, and then we ripped and made another new all-time high, pulled back, made another higher low, then ripped and made another new all-time high in the month of April. So this is a 3-bar chart, top of quadrant 4. That's going to be bullish, and we haven't made any lower lows, so we're in an uptrend. So bullish and in an uptrend. T2123. All right, stinker on the 15. Okay, so nice gap up yesterday, and notice the bears could not be found. I mean, they had till noon to fill the gap. They failed, so nice bullish. Now we got a bearish gap today, and the bulls didn't fill the gap. Not a good sign, all right? That's not a good sign, and T2101 is not a good sign in that, you know, we were up at the all-time highs, and where's the participation is melting off. So that's not a good sign either, all right? Sorry, I got to call it like it is. And we got a bullish gap, and what happened? Did they fill that gap? Well, they missed it by a penny, kind of showing me maybe bulls are still lingering around, all right? They defended this gap fill, but the bulls did not want to go fill this gap. So I guess they're exhausted. I don't know. Price action is, you can see a low and a lower low. So we're in a downtrend, all right, on the 15-minute chart, downtrend. All right, we're up over the rising 200 SMA. That's bullish. That's where you want to be if you're a bull. We're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Again, that's where you want to be if you're a bull. It's bullish. All right, so we're in a downtrend. But all in all, look at price goes up. And if you just drew a line straight across, like right here, like that. Okay, so that's like a bull flag. It's not the prettiest of bull flags, but it is. It's a bull flag moving over to the right like that. So we're in a downtrend, but if you look at the price action here, and I'll encompass as much of it as I can, all right, you can see we're in the middle of quadrant 4, that's bullish, but we're in a downtrend. So we're having a pullback to this rising 200 SMA. So there's FNGU on the 15-minute. All right, let's take a look at the guidance, all right, and see what we traded and how well we did with what we traded. Okay, so let's go back to SPY. And let's pick it up on the 10-minute. All right, and you can see on the 10-minute, we kind of got this slope up here, okay? So I'm going to point it out, all right, a little slope going up, all right? So my plan for this morning was, all right, let's pull up the, okay, it's not that one. It is downloads. Here it is. All right, so here's my morning plan. I plan to trade a continuation of the pre-market uptrend. All right, I plan to trade a 10-minute downtrend below 706. Okay, so let's go up here and we'll take a look at the uptrend. So we had a continuation of this uptrend. Didn't go far. Okay, remember we started out, it was at 709.50. All right, you got nothing but tails down here. So, I mean, it was buyable if you wanted to step in here, or you could have waited or passed on it. Either way, could trade that all the way up to the top. Gap fill was the first stop. Second stop was all-time high right up there. Now, the fact that near the all-time high, the fact that we didn't tag all-time high, what's the high there? Yeah, 36. 28. Okay, the fact that we didn't tag the all-time high, showing us bears were in control, that was probably a reason to buy some puts as soon as you saw a little bearish engulfing with follow-through. right here. And then, of course, we consolidated. Well, we had to pull back to VWAP. And notice the VWAP did not bounce at all. All right, that was another clue. Things are kind of rolling over. And we needed to stay on top of the gap fill and hold that higher ground and consolidate right up through here. We did not. So price kind of rolled over. And you can see this huge drop down to 702 area right through here. All right, and then after the exhaustion, bulls came in with an igniting candle and rallied price all the way back from 702 clear up to almost 709. Let's see, yeah, 709.40 all the way up there. And then from there, we just consolidated. So this would be bullish consolidation, looking at this from a 10-minute perspective, up and over to the right. Okay, so bullish consolidation on the 10-minute chart. All right, that's it. For me, that's it. We traded that 10-minute uptrend, and then I said we got the failure to hold on top of this gap fill, and then you got a clear break of 706 right through here. Just one candle long, but kind of knew it was coming because we didn't bounce off of gap. It was a dead cat bounce. We went down and then over to the right instead of giving us a V bottom, and that was it. And then here it is, a huge blast off move to the downside that dropped pretty quick right through there. So I'll take questions in the room if there's anybody that's got a question on a stock or anything. Other than that, I'm going to take off, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. CP says, CP, look at CP's. I just want to share this with everybody. CP says, nice, John. Made my goals. The puts truly help. Thanks for the tips throughout the day. Welcome. Thanks, Robert. All right. I want to thank everybody here today in the room. Y'all have a beautiful evening. I'll see you all tomorrow on OPEX Friday. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll do it again. All right. So how I made my money was traded those calls and then traded the puts to the downside. So calls up, puts down, and then I saw this bullish engulf with some follow through, and then calls back up right through there. All right, I'll see you guys all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Everybody have a beautiful evening. Thank you.